When I came home bloody after a beating, my mom said, "If you don't fight back, you don't deserve help." I sat in my room alone that night and swore I'd never ask her for anything again. Years later, she was the one asking me. I'll start this the way people usually do here. I'm a 29M now, but this story really started when I was 12. For context, I grew up in a small Midwestern town where everybody knew everybody, but that didn't mean people cared. My dad wasn't around. He dipped before I was even born. My mom raised me on her own, but if I'm being real, raised might be too generous of a word. She fed me, sure, kept a roof over my head, but emotionally, she was cold, like ice cold. When I say I learned early on not to ask her for help, I mean it. And the night I'm about to talk about sealed that lesson into my bones in a way I never forgot. So, picture this. I was in 7th grade, super skinny kid, glasses, quiet, into drawing comics and video games. Basically, an easy target. There was this group of 3 dudes, bigger, older, the kind of guys who had peach fuzz mustaches and already looked like men. They'd corner me in the locker room, shove me around in the hallway, call me names I don't even want to repeat. You get the idea. One afternoon, they finally followed through on the threats they'd been tossing around. I was walking home, and they caught me behind the Dollar General. They pushed me against the wall, punched me in the stomach. One of them slapped my glasses off, and another kicked my leg out from under me. It wasn't like some movie-level beating, but when you're 12, it feels like the whole damn world is caving in on you. I remember the gravel scraping my hands, the taste of blood in my mouth, and this weird ringing in my ears. By the time I made it home, my shirt was ripped, lip busted, and I was trying so hard not to cry. My mom was at the kitchen table smoking one of her cheap cigarettes, staring out the window like she always did. She barely looked up when I walked in. She just goes, "What the hell happened to you?" And I'm thinking, finally, maybe she'll care. Maybe she'll hug me, or at least give me some ice for my face. So I tell her, "Some kids jumped me. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to get away." She takes a drag, looks me dead in the eye, and says, "If you don't fight back, you don't deserve help. Don't come crying to me when you let people treat you like that." I swear to God, that sentence broke something in me. Like, you know those moments where you feel the ground disappear from under you? That was it. I didn't even argue. I just nodded, walked to my room, shut the door, and sat on the edge of my bed staring at my bloody hands. And I remember thinking, okay, I get it. I'll never ask her for anything again. I know it sounds dramatic, but when you're a kid, those moments shape you. I didn't tell her when I was being bullied after that. I didn't tell her when I needed new shoes, or when I was failing math, or when I had my first panic attack at 15. I just stopped reaching out. She wasn't there, so I figured I had to be there for myself. Fast forward a bit. High school was rough, but I got through it. I worked odd jobs, saved up money, got into community college, then transferred to a state school. Nobody in my family showed up to my graduation. Not even my mom. She said she didn't see the point. I sat there in my cap and gown, looking out at the stands full of cheering families, and just swallowed it. Again, by the time I was in my 20s, I had built a whole life around not needing her. I worked my ass off, landed a decent job in IT, rented my own apartment, and cut down contact to bare minimum. Calls on birthdays, maybe Christmas. I never asked her for advice, never leaned on her for support. And honestly, I thought I'd made peace with that. But life has this twisted way of circling back. Because a few years ago, everything flipped. She called me one night. It was weird, because she never calls, and when she does, it's usually quick. But this time, her voice was shaky. She told me she needed help. Real help. Not like, "Can you pick me up some milk?" But the kind of help where her whole life was about to fall apart. And in that moment, all I could think about was that night when I was 12. Bloody lip, gravel in my palms, sitting on my bed while her words echoed in my head. "If you don't fight back, you don't deserve help." I remembered how cold that felt. How lonely. And now here she was, years later, asking me to fight for her when she never fought for me. When she first called, I almost didn't pick up. It was a Thursday night. I'd just gotten off a long shift, and her name flashing on my phone felt like one of those old wounds reopening. But something in me, habit, guilt, I don't know, made me swipe. Her voice was shaky, weaker than I'd ever heard it. "Hey, it's your mom." Like I didn't know. Then silence, like she was working up the nerve. Finally, she said, "I need your help. They're going to take the house." At first, I didn't even process it. I thought she meant like an eviction or something. But no, turns out she hadn't paid her mortgage in months. She was thousands behind. The bank was moving to foreclose. She had nowhere to go, no savings, no plan. And here's the kicker. She wanted me to step in. She wanted me to co-sign a loan with her to save the house. I just sat there on the phone, gripping it so hard my knuckles went white. I couldn't even speak right away, because all I could think was, you never fought for me. But now you expect me to fight for you? I didn't say that, though. I just asked, why are you calling me now? She got defensive immediately. Because you're my son. Who else am I supposed to call? You think I have anyone else? And that stung. Not because it was touching, but because it was true. She burned every bridge she ever had. Family didn't talk to her. Old friends wanted nothing to do with her, and neighbors treated her like a ghost. All she had was me, the son she told to fight back or shut up. I told her I needed time to think. She got angry. There's no time. They're taking it in a week. Then she started crying. That part shocked me more than anything. I couldn't remember ever seeing my mom cry when I was growing up. Not once. After we hung up, I just sat in my dark apartment staring at the ceiling. My stomach was tight. My chest felt heavy. I wanted to be done with her. I wanted to finally say, not my problem. But some twisted part of me couldn't. Not right away. So I went to see her. When I pulled up to the house, it looked worse than I remembered. Paint peeling, weeds taller than my waist, the porch sagging. Inside wasn't much better. Clutter everywhere. Ashtrays overflowing. The smell of stale smoke clinging to the walls. And there she was, sitting at the same kitchen table, pack of cheap cigarettes beside her, eyes red from crying. For a second, it was like I was 12 again, walking in bloody and waiting for her to notice me. She jumped up when she saw me. You came, she said, like she couldn't believe it. I didn't hug her. I didn't even sit down. I just leaned against the doorframe and asked, why should I help you? Her face hardened instantly. It was like flipping a switch. Because I'm your mother. After everything I did for you. I laughed. Couldn't help it. What exactly did you do for me? Besides tell me I didn't deserve help. She froze. And I swear, for the first time in my life, I saw guilt in her eyes. Real guilt. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then just looked down at the table. That silence was all the answer I needed. I turned to leave. My hand was already on the doorknob when she said it. Soft, shaky, but loud enough to stop me. I'm sorry. 2 words I'd never heard from her in 29 years. I didn't turn around. I just stood there with my back to her, feeling this storm of anger and pity and confusion rip through me. Part of me wanted to collapse right there. Another part wanted to slam the door and never come back. Instead, I walked out. I didn't answer her calls for the next 2 days. She left voicemails, some begging, some angry, some just empty. By the 3rd day, I was ready to block her. But then she left one that was different. She sounded tired, beaten down. She said, I know I wasn't there for you. I know I said things I can't take back. But please, just this once, don't let me lose everything. And that voicemail messed me up. Because I realized, if I let her sink now, I'd probably never see her again. She'd end up homeless, spiraling, maybe dead in some rundown motel. And I'd carry that with me forever. But helping her wasn't just about money. It meant reopening wounds I'd buried for years. It meant risking my own credit, my own stability, for someone who had never risked a damn thing for me. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to decide fast. By the 3rd night, I couldn't sleep. I kept pacing my apartment, replaying everything in my head. That voicemail wouldn't leave me alone. Her voice wasn't the same cold, hard one I grew up with. It sounded small, almost like she was a kid herself. And I hated that it got to me. I called my best friend, Marcus. He's been my rock since college, the kind of guy who'll give it to you straight, no sugarcoating. I laid it all out. The foreclosure, the loan, her begging. He didn't even hesitate. Bro, don't do it. I'm telling you right now. You co-sign that loan, you're on the hook. She's already proven she can't handle money. Why the hell would this time be different? I knew he was right. I knew logically it was insane. But when it's your mom, logic doesn't always win. So I told him I'd think about it. The next morning, I drove back over. She looked worse than before, dark circles under her eyes, same cigarette smell clinging to her clothes. She had papers spread out all over the kitchen table. Past due notices, foreclosure letters, credit card bills. It was like a war zone made of envelopes. I just need someone to co-sign, she said immediately, like she'd been rehearsing it. They'll give me the loan if you do. I can make the payments, I swear. I just need a chance. I sat down across from her and finally asked, "Why should I believe you?" She didn't answer right away. She stared at her hands, fingers trembling slightly. Then she said something I never thought I'd hear. "Because I don't have anyone else. And because I can't do this alone anymore." That alone part hit me. For years, she had made me feel alone. And now here she was, finally admitting she was too. Against every warning bell in my head, I agreed. We went to the bank together the next day. The woman at the desk looked at me like she knew I was making a mistake, but couldn't say it out loud. My credit was good, hers was shot to hell. I signed the papers anyway. Driving home, she was quiet. "No thank you, no I owe you one." Just silence. And maybe that was worse. At first, I tried to push it to the back of my mind. I told myself I'd done the right thing, that I was better than the bitterness I'd carried all my life. But then the late notices started coming again. Not even 2 months in. I called her. "What the hell is this? You said you'd make the payments." She snapped back. "I'm trying. Do you know how expensive everything is? I had to fix the water heater, and then the car broke down." Same excuses. Same cycle. And every word made me feel like that 12-year-old kid again, standing in front of her bloody and desperate for help, only to be told I didn't deserve it. The difference now? My name was tied to it. My credit. My stability. That realization lit something in me. I told her, flat out, "If you screw this up, I'm done. Like completely done. Don't call me. Don't ask me for anything. Don't even think about it. You'll never see me again." She didn't say anything. Just hung up. For weeks, I waited. I checked my credit score daily, heart pounding every time. And you know what? She actually started making the payments. Small ones, late sometimes, but they went through. I don't know if it was fear of losing me completely or the weight of finally seeing her son step up in a way she never did, but something shifted. One night, a few months later, she called me. I braced myself for another round of excuses. Instead, she said, "I've been going to these meetings." I was confused. "What kind of meetings?" "Debt counseling," she said. And AA. That second part knocked the air out of me. I never thought of her as an alcoholic, just a heavy drinker. But maybe that was denial. Hearing her admit it made me realize just how deep things had gone. For the first time, I heard honesty in her voice. Vulnerability. She even thanked me. Not in some grand speech, just a quiet, "I know I don't deserve it, but thank you for not letting me lose everything." And here's the crazy part. That moment felt like the closest thing to a mother-son connection we'd ever had. Not when I was a kid, not during birthdays or holidays, but right there, on a random Tuesday night over the phone. I didn't forgive her. Not completely. Some wounds don't close that easily. But I felt something shift. Like maybe the roles had reversed. Like I was the parent now, and she was finally the scared kid asking for help. Still, I kept my guard up. I didn't want to get sucked into the cycle again. I told myself, one chance. That's it. She blows this, I walk away. What I didn't know then was that this whole thing, the loan, the house, her trying, was just the beginning. Because a year later, everything came crashing down again, and I had to make the hardest choice of my life. About a year after I co-signed that loan, things seemed stable. Not great, but stable. She was making payments. The house hadn't been repossessed, and she was still going to her AA meetings. Every once in a while, she'd call me with updates, small stuff like, "I fixed the leaky sink today," or "I mowed the lawn." Honestly, it was the most normal we'd ever been. Part of me started to wonder if maybe this was the turning point. Maybe the hell I went through as a kid wasn't going to repeat itself. Maybe she was actually changing. Then one Friday afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. Not from her, not even directly to me. Just one of those notices lenders send out when an account is in trouble. My stomach dropped the second I opened it. She'd missed 2 payments. I told myself it was a mistake. Maybe it got lost in the mail. Maybe she was just late. But deep down, I already knew. I drove over that night, pulled up to the house, and immediately noticed something off. There were beer cans in the trash can by the curb. Not soda cans. Beer. My chest tightened. I walked inside without knocking. She was sitting at the kitchen table, cigarette in one hand, half-empty bottle in the other. "Really?" I said, not even trying to hide the anger. "You're drinking again?" She looked up at me like a deer in headlights, then instantly flipped into defense mode. "It's just one. Don't start lecturing me." "One." I pointed at the trash can inside, full of empties. "That doesn't look like one." She slammed the bottle down. You think you're so much better than me now, huh? Just because you've got your fancy job and your little apartment? You don't know what it's like to live with this much weight on your shoulders. That was it. I lost it. Years of bottled up anger came spilling out. What weight? The weight of actually being a parent? Because you never carried that. I did. I was 12 years old taking care of myself while you sat here telling me I didn't deserve help. And now I'm the one paying for your mess. Literally. And you can't even hold it together long enough to make a couple damn payments? She went quiet. For a second, I thought I'd finally broken through. But then she muttered, I didn't ask to be your mom, you know. I swear, those words felt like a knife. My vision actually blurred with how hard they hit. I just stood there, staring at her, feeling 12 years old all over again. Finally, I said, you know what? You're right. You didn't ask to be my mom. But you were. And you failed. And I'm done paying the price for it. I walked out. For the next week, I ignored her calls. She left voicemails ranging from sobbing apologies to furious rants about how ungrateful I was. I saved one of them. Not sure why. Maybe as proof to myself that I wasn't imagining how toxic she could be. But ignoring her didn't solve the problem. Because the bank still had my name on that loan. Every missed payment was a direct hit to my credit, my future. So I did something drastic. I called the bank myself and asked about options. Turns out, as the co-signer, I had rights too. They told me if I wanted, I could assume the loan fully in my name, kick her off, and take control of the property. It wasn't cheap, and it wasn't easy, but it was possible. I sat with that decision for days. It felt wrong, like stealing. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't stealing if she was throwing it away. It was protecting myself, protecting the life I'd built without her. So I did it. I signed the papers, took full ownership, and told her she had 60 days to move out. When I showed up with the paperwork, she completely lost it, screaming, crying, begging. She called me a traitor, a monster, said no real son would do this. I just stood there and let her rant, because honestly, none of it hurt anymore. Finally, I said, you told me once that if I didn't fight back, I didn't deserve help. Well, I'm fighting back now. And you're right. You don't deserve help. Not from me. She didn't answer. She just sat back down at that damn kitchen table, lit another cigarette, and stared out the window like she always did. I walked out, and this time, I knew I wasn't coming back. That night, I sat in my car outside the house, staring at the place where I grew up. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a scared kid anymore. I felt like someone who finally took control. What I didn't expect was what came after, when she actually showed up on my doorstep a few months later, bags in hand, asking for one more chance. 3 months after I had her removed from the house, I thought it was finally over. I'd rented the place out to a decent family who kept it up way better than she ever did. The payments were steady, my credit started recovering, and for the first time, I could breathe. Then one night, around 11 p.m., I heard a knock at my apartment door. I figured it was a neighbor or maybe Marcus dropping by unannounced. But when I opened it, there she was. My mom. She looked wrecked. Not just tired. Wrecked. Hair stringy. Face thinner than I'd ever seen it. Bags under her eyes, so deep it looked like she hadn't slept in days. And in her hands, 2 trash bags stuffed with clothes and random junk. I don't have anywhere else to go, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I just stood there. Part of me wanted to slam the door right then. Another part of me, some leftover instinct from being her son, wanted to help her. That war inside me was so loud I couldn't even think straight. I finally stepped aside, letting her in. She dropped the bags in the corner and sat on my couch like she'd been living there all along. I sat across from her, arms crossed, waiting. She didn't beat around the bush this time. I tried staying with a friend, she said, staring at the floor. Didn't work out. Been in motels since then, but I ran out of money. I know I messed up. I know I've always messed up. But please, just give me one more chance. I can't even explain what I felt hearing that. Anger, pity, exhaustion. Mostly exhaustion. Because I realized I'd been giving her one more chance my entire life. And she'd thrown away every single one. So I asked her something I'd never asked before. Why now? Why do you suddenly want me to believe you've changed? She looked up at me, eyes glassy. Because you're all I have left. And that broke me in a way I didn't expect. Not because it was touching, but because it was true. She had nothing. No house, no friends, no job, no one else. Just me. the son she had failed so many times. I told her she could stay for one night. Just one. I made it clear. No drinking, no drama, no excuses. She nodded like a child being scolded, then curled up on my couch and passed out almost instantly. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my bedroom, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do. On one hand, she was my mom, the only parent I'd ever known, no matter how broken. On the other hand, letting her back in felt like inviting a hurricane to live in my apartment. The next morning, I woke her up early. We sat at my tiny kitchen table, me with coffee, her with nothing, just wringing her hands like she was waiting for a verdict. I said, "You can't stay here. I can't go back to being your safety net. I won't survive it. But I'll help you find a shelter. I'll help you get into a program. If you want to actually change, I'll support that. But I won't save you from yourself anymore." She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just nodded, tears running down her face. And in that moment, I saw something I'd never seen before: surrender. Not the fake kind she used when she wanted something, but real, broken surrender. I spent the next week helping her get into a transitional housing program through a local church. It wasn't glamorous, shared rooms, strict rules, but it was safe. I visited once, dropped off some groceries, and she actually thanked me without bitterness in her voice. Over time, we found a kind of rhythm. Not mother and son, more like two distant relatives who sometimes checked in on each other. I kept boundaries. I refused to give her money, refused to let her move in. But I did answer the phone sometimes. I did listen. And slowly, I think she realized that was more than she ever deserved. A few months later, she surprised me. She got a part-time job at a thrift store. Minimum wage, nothing glamorous, but it was hers. She called me after her first paycheck and said, "I bought groceries with my own money today." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "Good. I'm glad." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was something. Now, years later, I still keep her at arm's length. We talk once in a while, see each other on holidays sometimes. I'll never get back the childhood she took from me. I'll never hear the words I needed when I was 12, sitting on my bed covered in blood. But I also don't carry the same hate I used to. The truth is, when she asked me for help all those years later, I finally understood what kind of person she was. Not a monster, not a villain, just a broken human being who couldn't love the way a mother should. And as much as it hurts, I've learned that sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to love someone from a distance. So yeah, when I came home bloody at 12, my mom told me I didn't deserve help. And I believed her for a long time. But the twist is, years later, she was the one who needed me. And this time, I finally learned how to help without destroying myself. And maybe that's enough.